Just to get things started, thanks everybody in the audience for tuning in. Just quick overview and background before we get into it. My name's Josh. I work in ops at the dYdX Foundation. Might sound a little different to our regular moderator, James, who's currently traveling. So, covering the moderation duties on behalf of the dYdX Foundation. So today, super happy to have an open AMA and chat with Reverie. And for any new community members, Reverie is the, I guess, group organization that initially requested funding to start the dYdX grants program and successfully completed version 1 of the grants program earlier in the last epoch or the epoch before. Reverie recently put up a DRC to extend funding in grants version 1.5, which is the subject matter for, I guess, today's AMA, just to provide the community with kind of an open forum to kind of discuss what the next iteration of grants looks like and hear from Reverie about kind of successes on the grants version 1, as well as what they look forward to on the next iteration of the grants program. Just a reminder for everybody, I guess, like housekeeping rules as we usually go through. Just please try to keep track of the questions that were answered, just to keep the flow of conversation going, and so we're not kind of rehashing the same points. Basically, how we're going to do this is I have some pre-populated questions that we collected from the community that happy to run through with Reverie after they give a brief intro, and then the plan is after the pre-populated questions are done, we want to open this up to an open community dialogue. So looking forward to hearing your points on that point. At the point when we do kind of open it up for community questions, just please raise your hand through Discord and I'll bring you up on stage to ask your question. We just asked, as always, I think just general housekeeping rules for all of our AMAs, please be respectful and please no discussion of token price, anything like that. Same rules as on our forums. So with that, I will pass the mic over to Reverie just to give kind of a brief introduction. Take it over to you guys.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Josh. I think everybody knows of us in this kind of, I see a lot of familiar faces in here, so I won't really intro ourselves, given that I think everybody knows our position and what we've been doing with dYdX on the grant side of things as the grants will lead. So I can give just a quick update on V1, given that it is still technically ongoing from a existing grants perspective. We're still working with the existing grantees, the ones that haven't completed their work, to complete their projects, and we're actively providing feedback on the ones that are nearing completion and kind of keeping them accountable and making sure that they deliver on the expectations there. We should have a couple completed ones this week. We're giving final feedback on them, so that'll be nice. I'll be sharing that update probably by the end of the week. And then things are looking good. Otherwise, though, we're still on track to have 100% completion rate, so it's pretty exciting. And we should have a lot more still coming through, and probably, hopefully, lots of high impact ones. Otherwise, in terms of applications, we're still getting a good amount of applications, actually, which is great. And we're still actively monitoring those and responding to people in a timely manner. Obviously, we can't commit to anybody now, given that we don't have the budget and we don't have the community backing of V1.5 yet. So we're just kind of letting them know that the applications aren't outright rejected. They're just being put on hold for the time being. And if we're able to move forward with V1.5, then we would pick up the conversation and kind of see if we really would be able to move forward. But it's great that people are still applying, and we definitely have a few solid applications that are looking promising for V1.5. With kind of the grants getting completed, we're also looking at compiling a lot of data around different analytics and different success metrics for each grant, how it makes sense, depending on each grant, obviously will vary, but, looking at stuff like how many people are using a tool that was built. If it's a GitHub, did it receive a lot of stars? Is it being cloned a lot? If it's an online tool, is it being visited regularly? Or like a website, is it being visited? If it's a newsletter, how many readers do you get? Did you get a lot of subscribers and that sort of thing? And with that, we're gonna hopefully be able to generate kind of a neat report that analyzes what we think were successful versus less impactful, in order to then be able to better understand and dig into which grants actually work and do deliver a high impact, and which ones do we think work but don't actually do much. For example, maybe some of the tools that are being built, while they're really cool, the community just wasn't interested in using them. And so we can kind of get a better understanding for 1.5 through that. So we're hoping to get that report out by next week. We want to wait for more to get completed so we get more and more data, but we can release kind of an initial analysis. The new website was also completed. You can go ahead and check that out at dYdXgrants.com. Let us know if you have any comments or feedback. Obviously, we're always super receptive to getting community feedback on everything. So if you think something could be better on that website, please let us know. We also added the selection criteria on the website. So if you now go to the application page, if you hit apply now, you'll see it starts off with our selection criteria. We had kind of received a comment from the community about wanting more transparency around how we select our grants, and that kind of gives you an idea of the questions that we ask ourselves and what we look for in an application when we consider it. So that's the state of V1. And so obviously, as everybody knows, it's been put on pause due to funding constraints. And so we have now come out with this V1.5 proposal, which is the topic of today's discussion. So V1.5 is effectively, ideally at least, it's a larger scaled but narrowed down vision of the V1 grants. And so feel free to obviously check out the discussion. I imagine most of you have already, but if you haven't, then you can check it out on Commonwealth. But initially, we have a proposal up for a budget of about 8 million, which we've kind of split out across these different categories. And the goal is to really keep doing what we've been doing with V1, but make it a lot more efficient, leverage the lessons that we learned in V1 and kind of all the operational backend that we've been building. Obviously, we set up the Guernsey Purpose Trust, which initially caused a lot of delays on payments. It stopped us from being able to diversify the funds into USDC and stuff like that. And so all of that's been now done. We have kind of all this operational structure and foundation for us to be able to launch a much more efficient program through V1.5. And we also hope to kind of leverage the grants program to really benefit the protocol and the community as we move towards this big migration by the end of the year. Obviously, we think the grants can really have a big impact there, kind of starting to work with contributors in the different space and obviously the Cosmos environment. There's going to be a couple of changes to the committee through this grant, just kind of as can be expected, just based on needs and kind of space. And then so obviously I think that kind of covers it on V1.5. I think everybody here, again, just looking at the crowd, I think we've all had a chance to look at it. So I'm really appreciative of all the comments that everybody have left and keeping the discussion open. And we just kind of wanted to give everybody a chance to talk about it live versus having to go back and forth over comments.
Yeah, I appreciate you going through that, Carl. I know we have a lot of our regular, community members and contributors here, and super happy that you guys were able to make time to kind of jump on for an open kind of discussion and dialogue. I think kind of two interesting, I guess, things that you guys have had to deal with specifically is just I think one is market downturns, and the other one is the announcement about dYdX shifting to Cosmos. Could you maybe expand a little bit more on how two of those things kind of impacted grants V1.5?
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, one second. My dog is barking in the background there. Do you want to take it? I can take it otherwise.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I think in terms of in terms of the market downturn, I think the most obvious way it's affected us is just sort of affecting our ability to fund new grants. So I think that's been the main one, and sort of why the program was put on pause. In terms of 1.5, it is also resulted in us just having a smaller sort of scope and focus compared to sort of our original plans. Like when we sort of started this program back in the fall, the intention was, depending on how dYdX was doing, depending on how the market was doing, scale up and down as appropriate and as needed. And yeah, it was always the plan where if the market turned and revenues were decreasing across every DeFi protocol and everything, to have a smaller, more focused program that can operate super efficiently and sort of do it in a very capital efficient manner. I think another element of that is, just ensuring the program has enough runway and has enough capital to operate if in whatever market condition. And that's sort of why we added in the 25% buffer into the budget. And it's something we are very cognizant of and always thinking about, because not sure if everyone here remembers, but when we first launched V1, the original budget was around 6-7 million for 6 months, and it turned into roughly 2 to 3 million within a matter of months. And I wish we had diversified earlier. Setting up the Guernsey Trust had taken some time, and it took us some time to just get that process up going. So fully expect that to be easier this time around, but just wanted to share some of our transparent thoughts around sort of the market and how we've planned around it for V1.5. And then in terms of Cosmos related things, I mean, I think there, like us too, we have a ton of questions, and I think there are for us as well more questions than concrete answers. But in terms of how we've planned around it for V1.5, I think the most important thing is that it's going to be a massive, pretty fundamental change in everything. I know the goal is to keep the core UI and user experience and trading experience the same, but the back end, the actual infrastructure it's built on, potentially the governance, potentially other things that the community has worked on, education, marketing, like the validators, like it's just going to have to be a lot of it's going to have to be rebuilt or converted. And I think it means a few different things. I think first and foremost, it means that like existing projects and things we funded will need to just basically figure out and work with grantees to figure out how to make them most impactful for V4. I think some of this, it's very doable, such as some of the content marketing, it is transferable. I think for some of the back end stuff, like governance related tooling and other stuff built on existing Ethereum open source stuff, like it'll be a bit more challenging. But it is something we are actively sort of considering. And then, I think the other thing is over the next 6 months, I think there will be more clarity on like what the community's role will be in V4, what the architecture will look like. And I hope the grants program can play a role in sort of shaping that and leveraging our background and our knowledge in the Cosmos ecosystem to make that transition as smooth as possible. I also don't have, I think we have a lot of questions too, honestly, but I think there are ways of preparing for it, and I'm anticipating it to be quite an interesting experiment. So.
Yeah, fantastic. I think just like a follow on, Would you guys mind, I guess, just expanding on, I guess, like, professional or personal experiences with Cosmos and the Cosmos ecosystem?
Happy to. So, I guess speaking for Reverie, we have as a firm. So just again to set context for everyone, Reverie works with a few different protocols. We help them with various types of things, such as grants programs, treasury diversifications, liquidity incentives, growth programs, general strategy, sometimes legal and operation. And we have previously and currently are working on some protocols in the Cosmos ecosystem. One of them is osmosis, as some of you guys pointed out, and it's something that neither Carl nor I have extensive experience on. To be honest, I have a little bit more context. I've spent some time there, but other members of the Reverie team, not on this call, have spent a ton of time digging in and really are very knowledgeable about that ecosystem. I think over time, over the next few months, again, as there's more clarity on sort of what the community should prioritize and what grants can and should fund, we will leverage more and more of that knowledge that we've built up as a participant in Cosmos. And I think, in terms of osmosis and specifically, like, it's interesting to me because I think it's actually quite complementary to the work that we're doing here. I think, again, it's easy to say that, like the Reverie team has their focus divided between these different projects. They're not dedicating their full sort of time and energy to dYdX, but I actually think it's the opposite, where because of how we've sort of learned and gone through some of the learning lessons of Cosmos and some of the unique idiosyncratic parts, like we have, like, that is knowledge and things that we will share with the community and we will hopefully apply. And this is just my personal opinion, but I think osmosis and dYdX are very complementary protocols. Osmosis is focusing on spot, and dYdX is focusing on perpetuals. In terms of architecture and design, again, I just don't know the full sort of image of what dYdX v4 will look like, but judging by some of the comments that have been said publicly and by the blog post, I think the sort of their positionings within the ecosystem will be pretty different. Obviously, like, dYdX is focused on off-chain order book, building the best product, and osmosis is there's just parts of the Cosmos ecosystem like IBC, smart contracts, and other things that I would be surprised if dYdX touched. So I see them ultimately as pretty complementary things. I think the success of one helps the other, and I think and do hope that our previous experience in Cosmos will be useful here as well. So we don't have all the answers, but I think we have some knowledge.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for going over that. I think just like following up on that question, there was like a few comments just about, like Reverie's like time and attention towards dYdX. I think for everybody who doesn't know, do you maybe want to share, like, I guess, like how Reverie is structured and just in terms of like, how attention is paid to like the different kind of like ongoing projects?
Yeah, so I can start, Derek, if you want. Just as to speak for myself, as the one who's been mostly leading the dYdX grants program on the Reverie side, obviously with a lot of help from Derek and a lot of help from other members of the community, I have had no interaction with osmosis. Derek is the one that had some knowledge as kind of to help setting it up, but I've been fully focused on dYdX and getting other projects outside of the grants program set up, like the new asset listing and some other working groups that we're working on, and kind of keeping my attention pretty much entirely on that. So now that we are doing this migration, I've been bothering my fellow coworkers at Reverie a ton for information on everything, and seeing how we can poach their grantees basically to work on dYdX stuff. But as Derek mentioned, it's going to be very complementary, and I kind of have now that springboard in order to really I already feel like I have a significant head start in my understanding and kind of contacts and people that we can reach out to, and like understanding of like the operational processes that's going to happen when we're moving on to a Cosmos-based network and stuff like that. And so, our attention is really like fully dedicated towards the protocol that we're working with. And then, we only work with a couple of others really. And, in the past we worked with some others, but right now we only have like a very select amount. And that's because we really want to dedicate as much of our time as possible towards bettering that protocol and that community. That's how we judge ourselves. And that's kind of our whole mission as a firm. And so, yeah, I can, for me, it's been like entirely on dYdX, and then Derek, I don't know if you want to add like your personal perspective.
Yeah, just to add on, like the first thing I'd say is that we've spent more time, I'd say, on dYdX as a firm than any other protocol we've worked with. We've spent time on other protocols like Compound and Uniswap in the past. We've created governance proposals. We've worked on different initiatives. Those are no longer really ongoing. We spend maybe a few hours a week, a month, honestly. dYdX is the protocol that we spend the most amount of time on, and we don't anticipate that changing going forward. I think the reason it's so interesting to us is, again, just Carl's background as a sort of having spent a bunch of time at Genesis, sort of we really understand the product and some of the key stakeholders. So I think there was just a lot of natural synergies. And yeah, again, Reverie's 5 people. Myself and Carl have been the community members that have been most focused on the grants program and interfacing with you guys. But as like other members of the team have contributed in other ways behind the scenes in terms of legal, operational, as well as other things. So I know that sometimes, it might be a bit unclear about how big we are, what our focus is, but just wanted to shed some light about sort of how we operate.
Awesome. Thanks for that, guys. I appreciate you kind of discussing structuring and where people are focusing, spending all their time. Gonna jump around here a little bit to a point we talked about previously when we were talking about just the buffer that's included in the current budget, and then just the importance of diversification just to ensure that DGP 1.5, if it is successful and gets funded, can continue operating if there is an extended bear market or an even further market downturn. Do you guys just want to take a few minutes to describe, I guess, how you're planning to approach diversification if the proposal is successful?
Yeah, so I will try to answer this question without talking about token price. I think generally diversification is important, as I said before, to make sure that the program can continue to operate in any market condition. We've done diversifications in the past. You can see the details on the website. We went through an OTC desk who helped us get BEX, who was helpful. And then, going forward, we will again explore whatever option is best for the DAO, for the community. I think, again, we've spent a lot of time thinking about the specific thing, diversification, both in terms of how much and how to do it. There's been excellent community research on it as well. We funded some grantees to work on this. So I think, it really has multiple benefits for the protocol to de-risk from the native protocol token. And have some stable coins to make sure that operations can be funded for both the grants program as well as other initiatives that we fund. So yeah, again, I think a big reason the Guernsey Trust is so useful, and frankly, like the main reason that we actually went through the extensive process of setting it up and operating it is for cases like this. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. I guess the DRC noted that, one member of the community is potentially going to be included on the grants committee. Do you maybe just want to take a moment to describe like the types of I guess like background or like type of community member that you think would be like a good addition to the grants committee, and maybe just touch on that aspect a little more, because I think we've only gotten or the protocol overall has only gotten, or the grants program overall, pardon me, I'm stumbling over my words here, but the grants program overall has only gotten like 2 applicants, I think 2 or 3 applicants so far. So we just wanted to shed a little bit more light on that if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we did look at kind of changing up the committee a little bit, which is going to be a regular occurrence probably, just to keep it diverse and then kind of make sure that we have active members as part of our committee. And we thought it'd be really great to get a community member on there in order to have somebody representing the community with more hands-on experience, engaging across the protocol and kind of having a better understanding and be able to speak on behalf of the community, not just acting as a kind of industry expert who also has like kind of a high level of security and trust. And so in terms of backgrounds, very, very diverse. There's not like a set qualified person that we're looking for. We really just want somebody who's going to be trustworthy, responsive, kind of available and like timely in their responses and in their multi-sig signings. It's become quite a meme across like crypto Twitter, like getting a multi-signature transaction out is probably like the hardest thing you can do in this space. We got one out today after a couple days, not too bad. And so, we really just want somebody who's going to be super active. We got, like you mentioned, a couple applicants already, 2 both very strong applications. Alexis obviously has a good understanding of the grants program, and that's a strong point for people to have, is kind of already knowledge and experience and like solid understanding of the mission and how it works, given that part of the responsibility for the committee is reviewing each funding batch before they're approved, in order to make sure that, we're not going crazy with our funding amounts, we're not funding any conflicting interests, we're, making sure that everything is aligned in order to really be in the best interest of the protocol. And so a high level of integrity to that end is also important. But background, nothing specific, right? Really just an active community member who's going to be there to work with us is the highest quality.
Yeah, thanks for expanding on that. I think it's great that you guys are opening that up to get some more community representation, specifically an active community member. I want to leave a bunch of time for everybody kind of in attendance to leave questions, but I think like the last question from the pre-populated bunch and like from my end is, when you look at the budget allocations for version 1.5, if the proposal is successful and gets funded and Reverie is able to spend all of the funds in the budget, like what do you think, having looked back at the 1.5 of the grants program, like how would that be successful in your eyes? Like what does success look like, I guess, is just a short version of the question for grants v1.5.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for any kind of capital allocation grant is really just how much usage does it drive to the protocol. whether it's what number of users, trading volume, etc. I think in terms of specific initiatives, I mean, the most impactful ones are, I think there's a few different ones, and not all of them can be directly linked. Like if you run like education, like trader tooling, it might be difficult to like literally directly link it to trading volume. But I think in terms of things like new assets, incentive revisions, or modifications to the staking pool and other things like that, I think like those are very sort of clearly and directly tied to some of the key metrics that someone would use to evaluate dYdX's positioning in the market. And the other thing I'd highlight is like the budget request is not, it doesn't mean that it is like we're going to spend 100% of it. That's not sort of the intention. The intention is here are some of the estimated ones. If there aren't high quality things, if something isn't sort of, if like we don't get the applicants or projects that sort of have met that standard, like the budget isn't just going to be spent. So I just wanted to sort of clarify that.
Awesome. Thanks for that overview. And yeah, thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, guys, so that's it for the pre-populated questions that were posted kind of on Discord and in the grants channel that I recorded. I'm gonna open it up now to any of the dYdX community members in the audience who have a question. I think, yeah, just please put up your hand and we'll bring you on stage kind of one at a time here. I see we have a couple, so Alucard bringing you up right away. Thanks.
Hey, awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the Antonio's thoughts on that he posted recently today, but I just wanted to ask you what your guys' thoughts are on his thoughts, and where do you think maybe a middle ground lies in all of this?
Yeah, I'll sort of take a shot, and Carl, if there's anything you want to add, feel free to jump in. But I mean, I think Antonio's comment was very helpful. I think as the founder of dYdX Trading, he obviously has a helpful opinion and perspective, I think, for everyone. I think, yeah, like during a bear market, it's just good practice to be frugal. Survival is always the most important thing. I do think that they also provide an opportunity to grow and for protocols to aggressively grow market share. So I'm planning on responding to his comment a bit basically after this call. So yeah, I think generally agreed that focused spending is always the priority, especially in a bear market. In terms of just looking through his comments and seeing if there's anything else I should address. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like V4 stuff, I do think, yeah, a lot of the grants that have been funded and we will continue to fund will need to be redone for V4. Some will be easier to do than others. So yeah, keeping it smaller and more focused for now makes sense. In terms of the sort of operations of the grants and the specific funding and the prioritization, I want to think about it a bit more and I will put together a response. But yeah, Alucard, I mean, I'm looking at your response here as well. I do think it is important I do think the Ambassador Burroughs program is important. It's doing good work. There's a lot of potential to do even more and better work. And yeah, I do think giving the program the funding it needs and like ensuring it has budgets, not just for the members, but so you guys can create useful things like that is to me important. So not sure if that sort of if there's anything else that would be helpful, but that's my quick reaction
Yeah.
to his thoughts. But I'll be putting together a longer one on the forums.
Yeah, appreciate the response and looking forward to the longer response on that. The point I want to make for everybody here listening is, I think as we move towards B4 and as you mentioned, a lot of the content and a lot of the documentation is going to have to be redone. I think it's important that we have operating. I think it's important the ambassador program is well funded, because that will give us the ability to really more dynamically and in a more agile way adapt as new information comes from B4, and content has to be created quickly rather than relying on a lot of small grants to do a lot of the stuff that needs to get redone. I would argue the ambassador program can, and the people working there and the working groups can take care of a lot of that work as it happens. Just the point I want to make, but appreciate you guys answering the question. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Alucard. Derek, Carl, do you have any follow-up there, or can we move on to the next question?
No, yeah, I just definitely that last comment makes sense. The Bros program have been super helpful to that end, and we look forward to continuing to see all the awesome work being done, and we absolutely think that the grants program can continue to fund all the work, and like Derek said, kind of give not just compensation but also additional funding to take on these projects like part of the migration stuff. So yeah, totally agree.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, if that's it, Alucard, I'll move on to Mod Y, Mod X here, and bring them up on stage. Yeah, you're good.
All right, wonderful. So first of all, Derek and Carl, thanks for taking the time to do this. This is super useful. Just wanted to go back on the earlier comments in regards to the Osmosis platform being complementary to dYdX. I just have a very vague background on it, and my reading of it basically is the isotonic launch, which is basically their margin platform and lending. However, in their announcement, they also Sunny highlighted how he aims to go towards the perpetual market eventually. Now, Sunny having such a high involvement in the Osmosis ecosystem and Cosmos, it kind of creates a conflict of interest whereby I just want to ensure that there isn't any kind of basically involvement with Osmosis that would cause friction later down the road. I can forward you that article just so you can see their roadmap. But I do agree with what you said, is that having those builders in the Cosmos ecosystem and building on Osmosis could be beneficial for dYdX. But I do see along the roadmap of Osmosis that there will be conflicts later on down the road, because as we try and compete for market share of users, and especially if dYdX, say, post V4 launch, decide to aim to launch their own spot exchange as well. I know Antonio mentioned his main agenda is perpetuals, but he did also highlight that he has other products in mind as well. I just wanted to gauge your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a good question, and thanks for bringing it up. It's something we're very cognizant of. I think that every liquidity venue in crypto is in some way competitive, whether you're centralized or decentralized, it doesn't matter. I think Uniswap is in some ways competitive with dYdX, is in some ways competitive with Coinbase, with BitMEX, with FTX, with Osmosis. So I think it is a fair comment. I do think, and I think with every founder of any exchange is always going to say that they want to basically touch all of these different areas. I can tell you that Osmosis is not doing isotonic lending. It's not on their roadmap anymore, and they're focused on spot. It doesn't mean they won't do margin and lending and build it in the future. But again, I would be surprised if they did perpetuals anytime in the near term. I genuinely don't know if they will do it in, let's say, 5 years or something. But I don't think they're more competitive than sort of any other spot exchange in crypto, to be honest.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for that. And I just want to go on record to say I was telling this to Carl, but I think the grants program is definitely needed. And it's very important to boost the ecosystem through it. So my questions that I post on the governance forums, they might seem hard, but I keep iterating that I'm very supportive of what the grants team are doing and what they're trying to establish going forward. So I just want to get that out there as well on record.
Great, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, thanks so much, dYdX. I appreciate the feedback and good questions. Moving on to Arturica 22. I'll just bring you up on stage here quick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I don't have any question. It was very clear and useful. I just want to leave a feedback. The Cosmos Network has many foundational projects related to various fields. And for example, so related to different fields, and it is very fast and reliable. So I'm glad that dYdX is now available on this network. And thanks for your work, guys.
Hey, we haven't done anything. It's been the dYdX trading team. So
Love the enthusiasm, though. Definitely, we're all super excited for this. Yeah, but yeah, we're not going to sit here and take any credit for that.
Awesome. Thanks for the positive feedback, Arturica. I guess, yeah, just a quick reminder on that. Definitely like separation of powers or separation of the entities. dYdX trading kind of has no affiliation with the grants program, and with the foundation is also a separate independent entity who kind of is the steward of the dYdX token, and really its mission is to build out the dYdX ecosystem, make sure that the ecosystem is self-sustainable, and when V4 full decentralization comes around, to make sure that that ecosystem can really grow on Cosmos and succeed.
James had one in the kind of dYdX grants AMA that I'm happy to touch on real quick, which was the question was, can we touch on how the grants program plan to market different initiatives grant participants produce, also the program itself? That's the main thing that we've been working on there was the website, so that we now have a more reliable place that we can direct attention towards, and we can start to work on search engine optimization using that website, which was part of the grant that we had given to Alexis originally. And he's now that we've launched the website, he's working on that, so that when you start to Google grants and stuff like that, like dYdX grant comes up way earlier in search results than hopefully others. And obviously we're going to keep like tweeting, and we're going to keep kind of promoting these grants. We haven't been the best at using Twitter, especially recently. We're going to revamp that a lot now that we're getting more completions, and kind of making sure that people have a reliable place to access tools that have been built. So if you go to the website, for example, you can click on funded grants, you can click on tooling, and then you can toggle the completed one, and there you'll see tools that have been completed. Now, there's definitely still work that can be done there. We can add like a search thing, we can add like what kind of tooling, like do you want like a trading extension? Are you looking for like analytics, like a kind of like a analysis, or like we have some simulators that were built, so like are you looking for trade simulation? There's a lot more that we can do, but that's kind of the direction that we're going toward. Like we want to have a very reliable kind of directory where people can just log on and have access to all these, and that way we can market them across like Twitter and different places, and always have this website that is more reliable than the Notion page that we had been dependent on up until very recently. So that's kind of what we're doing on that end.
Awesome, thanks for the update. Mod Y, Mod X, I saw you unmuted. Did you have a follow-up question?
I just had one additional question. I was just going through the grants website, and I was just wondering how much of the grants that are uncompleted have any form of like a deadline? Because one thing I'm worried about is currently in V3 we have a runway, so if someone completes their grant, it can be useful because it can be used for the current V3 platform. But say, for example, a grantee last month before V3 is coming to an end decides to wrap up their project, would they have any implications, or would you still pay the amount that was promised to them?
No, definitely. Like most of them are coming up on their like targeted completion milestones. I fully expect this to, so this doesn't go for like the newsletter and more like qualitative grants. For example, we have the Masari quarterly report one that obviously won't end until the end of the year, or until like the last quarter. I can't remember when the last quarter was, and like the newsletters and stuff like that. But the ones that are building tools, we fully expect those to be wrapped up within the next month, so that they can, still be very useful to the community. And a lot of them are kind of, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I still think that a lot of them will be useful to the community, even in a V4 launch where like it's kind of like fully independent. I still think that there's going to be some use cases for it, and people will be able to do it. And our grantees are also have been just like super eager and excited to work, and like whenever we have feedback, they're always implementing them, and they're always like very excited with the projects that they're doing. And so I fully expect them to be very happy and willing to like migrate as much as possible to the new platform, and so that their tool can be continued to be used. And that's kind of like the spirit of grants, right? These people they're not only like, these are passion projects for a lot of them, and they're doing this to build their portfolios. They're doing this because they're really interested in the problem, and so like they don't want to just see their project die either. They put a lot of hard work into it, and so I really expect a lot of them to kind of like update their projects in order for them to stay relevant and to be able to benefit the community.
Okay, that's interesting to know. No, that's good. And would they want additional payment to upgrade it, or would they do it?
That's what I'm saying. I don't like. We'll obviously be addressing that as it comes. Like if it makes sense, if, for example, one of the tools is like being used a ton and the community really wants it, and the grantee thinks or like we kind of can come to an agreement that there should be some sort of compensation for the work that's being done to migrate it, then yes. But like, that's going to be, we're going to have to decide kind of later on, obviously. But I wouldn't expect like a very sizable grant for migration, given that it might not make sense, but there's probably some room to make sure that they're fairly compensated for any time and work that they're doing. Sure.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks a lot.
Great question. We have a few minutes left here, guys, like 5-6 to be exact. Again, just last reminder, if you do have anything you want to add to the discussion, please put your hand up. So we have AX07, just bringing you up now.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, go ahead.
Perfect. So I was wondering, like, with the current plan that Antonio gave on the thread, how would it affect you guys? I mean, the treasury in terms of would you accept that like 500K, or is that not enough so you wouldn't do the job? And also for the ambassador program, like, would that be enough for the ambassador program to keep on going? and to get more recruits, or is that going to die off, or how? Because I've seen a little bit of a discussion there, that Alucard was talking about, and yeah, I was just wondering about that.
That's a good question. I think, yeah, I mean, still, again, similar to my earlier comment, going to take Antonio's comment, obviously super helpful. He has a ton of context, and yeah, we will take it back on our end and revise as needed. Yeah, again, honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't thought it through all the way yet, but it's definitely helpful information.
Right. And for the ambassador program, how would it work? So like, you have like I've seen you have 17 like people working on the bureau, and so yeah, so how would it work? Like the hourly rate would go down, or
so I don't have a specific number now for you aside from what we've put out on the post for the ambassador borough budget. I will say that I think speaking for both Carl and myself, that we want to see the borough's program succeed. We want to see it fully funded and operational, and for it to be able to maintain both the existing people, bring on more, and work on initiatives that they find helpful. So yeah, just keep an eye out for a comment from us about these very things in the next day or two.
Yeah, all right, perfect, thanks, cheers.
And yeah, we can keep going. Like I can stay past the hour mark if there's a lot more questions, which it might.
I don't really have a hard cutoff either. Happy to stick around. James had a question in the chat about overpricing. You know, definitely some lessons learned there in V1. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we priced everything perfectly, and like there are absolutely some where the team, myself, maybe overcommitted on the funding, and you know, we're taking those lessons and applying them to V1.5 now to make it even more competitive and make it even more efficient. I don't want to like single out grants and grantees that we're going to overprice. I'd rather not like go into that, but just to like address it, like we definitely, yeah, we have a lot of lessons that we learned from V1, and that's why we think that this V1.5 can be even more efficient and can be even more high impact, because we can now apply everything that we've learned from V1, where we had a bit of a more general mission as to like, we want to grow the protocol, we want them to be able to benefit the community and the protocol, and we want to attract more contributors, and through that we wanted to make it a competitive program by, you know, paying good grants and making sure that people were excited to come work for dYdX. But now that we're narrowing in our focus on these specific problems that we've identified that you can see in the post, we can kind of better align our funding and better align our kind of expectations from our grantees. And so we expect it to become a lot more efficient and capital kind of better capital allocation.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to answer all our questions. I got one more. Want to get your guys' perspective on retroactive grants and perhaps how those could potentially evolve and in the grants program and be used or not used at some point.
Yeah, great question. Personally, I'm a big fan of retroactive grants. We issued only one retroactive grant in V1, Paradox Prince, the paper that he wrote on kind of building a future like financial system and kind of governance system for the dYdX DAO. I'm not sure if you guys have a chance to read it, but it was great, and kind of like he spent a lot of time. We worked with him on feedback, but he hadn't applied in any capacity. He just kind of was doing this on his own time, and then once it was out, we decided that given the amount of work that he had put in and revisions he made to that paper and everything, we was fully entitled to receiving some compensation from the community. So I'm a big fan of retroactive grants. I think that like people should feel that they don't necessarily need to apply and be approved to contribute to the community and to the protocol. They should feel as though if they spend time and dedicate hours and build something or write something or like partake in some capacity, that they should then be rewarded by the protocol. That's kind of like the like mantra, like ethos that we want to put out there. Like we want to be fully supportive of community builders, and we don't want to just be restrictive to like, oh, you have to be approved in order to be compensated and in order to receive some sort of like reward and acknowledgement of the work that you've done. No, we want to be fully inclusive and make sure that people are just, if you have an idea and you like can't wait to get started, just like go at it, like do it and start working on it. And like chances are, if you're that passionate, you're going to do an awesome job and like build something really cool, and then we will be more than excited to make sure that you get fairly rewarded for the work that you've done.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that. A follow-up on that, what level of impact would you guys be looking at in terms of rewarding those retroactive grants to community members?
Yeah, it obviously varies based on the grant and the work that's being done, but like if we can like just like within reason say that like the community has benefited and like substantial work was put into this, then I think it has a strong case for being for receiving a retroactive grant. But obviously it's case by case, and we would like scrutinize it quite in depth because we don't want to be seen as just like giving out retroactive grants for somebody who like puts up a post, right? Like it can't just be something really easy either. It has to be something that really benefits the protocol and the community and has pushed things forward in some capacity. So unfortunately it's hard to answer that because it's going to be case, but I think, yeah, you can kind of see where I'm going.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Alucard. Okay, guys. I know we are 5 minutes over time. Really appreciate Derek and Carl coming on. I'll give you guys kind of like one last chance to throw a hand up, request to speak, put something in the chat, and if not, we will close the AMA for today. Oh, Alera, sorry. I think maybe I misunderstood your question. If it was in reference to the grants website and not the dYdX exchange website, then James has been kind enough just to provide a quick response that the website like is working in the Chrome browser. You might just have to clear your cookies. Okay, guys. I really appreciate all of you coming out, asking really good questions, and thank you again to Derek and Carl. I think just in terms of next steps to close things out, Derek or Carl, is there like a specific timeline for next steps with the proposal? I know, there's a snapshot proposal and an on-chain vote required eventually.
So there's no specific timeline. I think for us, it's really the focus is now on just responding to the community's questions, integrating that into the proposal and the budget. I think again, the post we put out was to spur discussion and we want everyone to have a look, and we wanted to give it the amount of time it needs to breathe a little bit. So yeah, we will come back and share our updated thoughts and make sure we reply to every single one. And I think the goal is to move forward in a matter of weeks. So I would say we want to move forward hopefully in the next week or two.
Awesome. Thanks for that update. Okay, guys, gonna close out the stage channel now. Thank you again.
Really appreciate everybody coming on and his questions. Really value it, and yeah, it's great working with everybody here. So just let us know on the thread if there's anything else.